the stand. Now he runs. He produces a magic trick. He pulls out another one. This is incredible. This is ridiculous. This is 15 out of 10 on the incredible meter. What a player. What an entertainer. Give him the medal. Give him the Dally M medal.
Hello, footy fans, and welcome back to the Chip and Chase podcast. Had a bit of a hiatus. We missed last week's podcast with all the flooding and whatnot going around. It's been a pretty hectic time if you're on the coast. So if you are dealing with any of the floods, I want to extend my best wishes to you guys out there. But yeah, ended up missing that podcast last week, but we're back this week for the round 12 review. And I'll be honest, guys, it's going to be a rapid review. We're going to try and turn this one out in 30 minutes to 45 at absolute max, because it was only the 5 games. And I think, you know, what happened in those games, there's probably not too much that really, you know, there's not too much to talk about that impacts those teams' seasons, in my opinion. You know, there are a few different instances where there is a bit to talk about, and we will discuss that. But I think the big talking points that came out of the round 12 week are the news outside of the games themselves, and of course heading into State of Origin. So we're going to try and keep this one pretty rapid. So let's kick things off with the Bulldogs and the Dolphins game that kicked us off on I think we're still at a Thursday game. We did indeed. And the Dolphins winning this one 44-8. Now, I did tip the Dolphins. I thought with the Bulldogs outs through Origin and whatnot, you know, suspensions, injuries, all that jazz, that the Dolphins would get it done. But did I think a 44-point game was going to come from them? Absolutely not. You know, the Dolphins, they were still missing people as well, notably Hamaso Tabuai-Fidow, one of their best players, was out of this one. And they've been very hit or miss this year. You guys, if you've listened to my other podcast, know I'm very high on them. I like the brand of footy that they're playing, and I've always thought they're just one or two things off, you know, getting a few more wins, stringing a few more wins together. But that hasn't been the way it's played out for them this season. So for them to get this huge win over the team running first is absolutely outstanding. Are there excuses? For sure. And let's talk about them right now. This game was impacted by the wet pretty bloody heavily. There was a lot of rain in the coast, you know, Sydney, Newcastle areas, all that jazz, like an entire week leading up to it. I know, I've been living in that. So the field was slippery. It was still pissing down when this game was taking place. And that meant, you know, conditions weren't at their best, and it meant just discipline wasn't at their best. Like the Bulldogs in this game, they made 16 errors. The Dolphins also made 9, but yeah, 16 errors is pretty fucking high, especially for the Bulldogs, who are known as one of the more disciplined teams in the game. 6 penalties conceded, 16 errors, 4 ruck infringements. They were just, you know, it was sort of stacking up against them. And did the Dolphins play in the same conditions? Absolutely. But I think the Dolphins, they just adapted to that better. So it's more of it's a wrap on the Dolphins, and it's a massive blight on the Bulldogs. Do you want the Bulldogs to play better footy in the wet? Absolutely you do. You want them playing their best footy at the best of times in every game throughout the season. But it wasn't to be this week, and do I think that has a massive impact on their season? I don't think so. This is one of those games that if I'm the coach, I sort of write off. You know, you say your things, you say, this isn't good enough. We are going to have these games in the future, these wet weather games, and we need to be a lot better than we were. But this is one of those things that it won't happen too often, these sort of games. Like, the weather was just atrocious. So you write this one off. Do the Bulldogs, you know, as I said, do I think it impacts the Bulldogs season? I don't think this game necessarily does, but a lot of the stuff that's happening, you know, outside of this this game in particular at the moment, I think that has a very big chance to derail their season or strengthen their season. We're not sure how it all unfolds yet with the Lockie drama stuff, which we won't go into too depth on. You can get your fill of that everywhere else online. But it's going to be interesting to see if people look back at this game, if it all goes to shit from here on out, if they look back at this game and say this was the turning point. I don't necessarily think the game has anything to do whether or not their season goes bad or worse from here. It's just a game that got away from them. The Dolphins, they handled the conditions far, far better. And as I said, I've been very high on the Dolphins. I think they're very capable of stringing these games together. They're not doing very well on the ladder, but these are now 2 huge wins that they've put on the best teams in the comp, the Storm that they absolutely smashed a few weeks ago, and now the Bulldogs. So there's a lot to like about this Dolphins side, and I think for them to get this game, the other thing, completion rate in this one, the Dolphins is the stat that sort of matters. 80% completion rate in the wet is really, really good. The Bulldogs, 64%. So it just goes to show how these two teams sort of combated the conditions differently. And yeah, did I think that the Dolphins deserve to win 44-8? Probably not, and hence why at halftime it was only a 14-8 lead. In the second half, they sort of ran away with it, especially late with 3 tries in the last 10 minutes, the last 7 minutes of the game, to be honest. So does it properly reflect them? Maybe not. But as I said, this is a team that's very capable of these scorelines. We've seen it before. We see it again here. They're a team I'm quite high on. Whether or not they make 8, maybe not, but I think they're pushing for something pretty special at the moment, the Dolphins. So it's a game that I'm not taking too much away from the Bulldogs. Like, write it off and move on. For the Dolphins, it's actually a big win for them. They can build on that. That's now, as I said, 2 of the best teams in the comp that they've knocked off, like, with huge wins. Actually, I believe, did they massacre the Raiders as well? I'm not going to go back and find. Oh, you know what? I will. Let's type it up while I'm here. Dolphins versus Raiders 2025. No, that was the game that they were leading very handedly at halftime and ended up throwing that game away. No, that's absolutely fair. But look, it shows that they can put these scorelines on those big teams. So a lot to build from the Dolphins. In terms of standout players, as I said, for the Bulldogs, there's not really many that you can really talk about. My boy Connor Tracy, you guys know I love him. He had an absolute shocker in this one. Still had a few good moments, you know. There was times where he made like try-saving tackles on one side of the field and sprinted back to then cover and kick out, kicks under the post and clear up all that sort of stuff. He had a lot of good moments, but yeah, just had a lot of errors in this one, Connor Tracy. It's far from the footballer he is. He's, very high work rate, very low error count usually. But again, the conditions played their part in this one. What I really liked is the fact that he still attacked the football. I thought Bronson Xerri, he, kept at it, especially with his task of, oh no, he wasn't up against Herbie in this one because Herbie switched sides to the left, true. But he looked solid. He's looking better and better every week. Bronson Xerri. Besides that, as I said, not really much to comment on. Their forward pack, only 2 players ran for over 100 metres, that being Josh Curran, who ran for 101, and Harry Hayes, who looked good, to be fair. Harry Hayes has been a shining light for the Bulldogs in the last couple of seasons and has not got the plaudits he deserves. He ran for 105. Besides that, though, I think more that we can talk about is the debut of Luke Smith. It was really good seeing him get out there and have his run and make his debut for the club. And there's talks right now about Reid Marnie. The Bulldogs are not desperate, but happy to let him walk instantly. Love or hate Reid Marnie. I can't imagine there's too many people in the love camp. He's a good footballer on his day. I think I can see why you want to get rid of him, like from his discipline in this game. He made a few errors, but he has had plenty of good games this year as well. I haven't thought, even though, you don't like his antics on the field, I know I certainly don't, and he was up to more of it again this way. His discipline, I hate all that. I hate the grubby stuff. But he's a bloody good footballer, Reid Marnie, and I thought this year has been pretty solid, so maybe I'm not looking close enough, but in this game I will admit he was pretty poor, so it's interesting to see what the Bulldogs do with the hooker position moving forward, whether or not they allow Reid Marnie to walk. Keep in mind, he was their captain not too long ago, so yeah, pretty crazy stuff there, but as I said, not much to take away from the Bulldogs and not many standout players for them. For the Dolphins, it's sort of the opposite. As I said, there's a lot that they can take away. I thought Jake Averillo, he filled in very, very well, admirably at fullback. 14 runs, 108 metres isn't spectacular. 4 tackle breaks, 1 line break and a try. It was just good to see what he was doing. Jermaine Asako got through his work, scored a brilliant try in the corner, kicked every goal. Oh, no, he missed 1 goal apparently, but he's got 7 from 7 conversion attempts. He must have missed a penalty goal at some stage. Herbie Farnworth just done his usual thing. Scored a try, 15 runs, 111 metres, line break assist, try assist, 6 tackle breaks. You know what he does. And for me, the best player on the field, for maybe not the best player, but a player I want to talk about is Kurt Donahue. He came off very, very early into this game with a broken nose. Broken nose Kurt Donahue came off with and, went off for the HIA, and then he returned and played the rest of the game. Like, He's just an absolute worker, whether he's at hooker, as he was in this game, fullback that he was in the preseason, in the halves, which is where I think his best position is. He just goes about his business, and he does so well. Ended up with 11 runs for 94 metres, had a line break, had a try, had a 1 tackle break, and made 39 tackles for only 2 missed. I thought he was absolutely terrific, Kurt Donahue, and he made our team of the week. Thought he was fantastic. Beyond that, as I said, not too much to talk about. Good to see Harrison Graham. He got an extended run on the field and scored a try of his own. Oren Keeley, who I've always been a fan of, he was really good for the Dolphins as well. But that's sort of all there is to speak about that game. Let's move over to the next game of the round. The Parramatta Eels defeating the Manly Warringah Seagulls 30-10. This was a game that I got wrong on the tipping front. I tipped the Seagulls. I thought, Eels without Mitchell Moses, we saw how that was at the start of the season, and they weren't, very good at adapting that. The Seagulls, they were missing players too. Of course, Daly Cherry Evans out of this one was the big one. But I just expected with their firepower, with Tom Trbojevic still in that side, they could overcome that and they could get a good win against a Eels side that has struggled all throughout the year. Wasn't to be. The Eels not only got the win, they got a pretty resounding win. 30 points to 10 is a really, really good win for the Eels. Their season, it was sort of over before it began. Before it began, I should say, if correct English abides by me. But it's just good to see the building blocks that they're putting in place, moving forward. They're in a rebuild. We know that. Let's see how these young fellas respond. And we got to see that in this game. Jack Williams, not so much a young fella, but a player that they brought to the club, put in their leadership group. He was absolutely terrific in this one. Let's pull up his stats real quick. At prop, of course, he ended up moving into the second row, as has sort of been the rotation with Jack Williams this year. But he played 73 minutes between prop and second row, 18 runs, 195 metres, and scored a try as well. 32 tackles, 5 missed. Junior Paulo, who, there was the whispers about him retiring at the start of the season. He's ended up with 63 minutes, 20 runs, 207 metres from him, 3 tackle breaks, and 28 tackles of his own. Just good to see their forward pack going really, really well there. Jaman Hopgood scored a try himself. Kidione Katonga, who made our team of the week, was excellent in the second row. 14 runs, 188 metres for Katonga. And a line break as well, just getting through a mountain of work. And as I said, the other young fellas, Jordan Samrani, who came in and played in the centres in this one, was excellent. He ended up with 18 runs, 161 metres, and a try. And Isaiah Iyongi, he's the player who we all talked about at the start of the year. A lot of Supercoach chat, a lot of fantasy, just a lot of NRL chat about him taking over the mantle from Clint Gutherson. He has been their best player all season, in my opinion. Even in the games that they were they were struggling in at the beginning of the season, he was always looking real good in those ones. And here he is just filling into his role so nicely. 25 runs, 265 metres, 1 line break, 1 try assist, 1 try, 4 tackle breaks. He is such a good footy player. And as I said, these are the building blocks that Parramatta are setting in place. Players like Iongi, players like Samrani, players like Jack Williams they brought to the club and put in that leadership group. These are the building blocks into what they're going to build in the future. And to see them firing in a game like this was excellent. So I thought they were all really good. Thought Dean Hawkins was terrific at halfback as well, filling in for Mitch Moses. Ended up with 4 try assists of his own, Dean Hawkins. The ball he got away, I can't remember who he ended up passing that one to. Might have been Sam Rani. It very well could have been Sam Rani. But there was sort of a break made, and it's back to Hawkins, and he's falling to the ground. He's been tackled sort of from behind, ankle tapped, falling to the ground, and he throws this ball horizontally off the ground, flings it 20-odd, 30-odd metres to the right, and it ends up in the hands. I think it was Samrani who crossed for that one. It was a fantastic ball. So I thought Dean Hawkins was excellent as well. And Dylan Walker, when he came onto the field, really changed the game as well with 9 runs, 123 metres, and a line break. And Josh Papali'i is the last man we want to mention for the Eels in this game. Made his debut on the wing. Made his debut off the interchange, but Will Penasini lasted 1 minute before suffering a HIA and being ruled out of the game. So Joash ended up playing almost the entire game, scored a try on debut. He's got a big future in our game. Joash Papali'i was with the Bulldogs before this. I watched him throughout his juniors. He is an absolute star in the making. Obviously sat behind what very well could be a star in Isaiah Iyongi as well. They're both fullbacks, predominantly fullbacks. Whether or not he ends up in a different position, obviously played on the wing and did a great job there in this game, or if he ends up at 5'8" with Dylan Brown moving, wherever he is, he's got a very, very big future in our game, and it was great to see him pick up a try on debut. For the Seagulls, this is a bit worrying for their season, this one. I mean, I've been worried about them for a number of weeks now, but to lose this game to the Eels where they sort of had everything going for them. I know they're without Cherry Evans, they're without Jake Trbojevic. I think, Paseka's been gone since very much the start of the season. They have their outs, but this is still a team with Ton Trbojevic and, Tolo Kula, Ruben Garrick, Lee Hapawate, Luke Brooks, Omole Olakawatu. They've got so much in their team. And they're going up against the Eels team with not a whole lot to play for, to be honest, while the Seagulls still have a lot to play for. They needed to win this game, and they never really look like it. It's more of I think it's equally, actually, I should say, a positive for the Eels and how they played, but it's a negative for the Seagulls and how they played. Again, conditions were not ideal. It wasn't pissing down rain in this one, but still very slippery conditions. But that was the theme of the weekend, and every team plays under those conditions. They just didn't handle it. They didn't really fire any shots. Lee Hapawate was by far their best player, 23 runs, 263 metres, 2 line breaks and 2 tries. Thought he was absolutely terrific. Tom Trbojevic, he looked better than we had seen. Ended up running this game 24 runs, 225 metres, and he was just involved in all of their attack. But I think it just goes down to their forward pack, once again, not being able to build anything, not being able to lay a platform. And in fairness, their halves weren't terrific. I'm a huge Luke Brooks fan. I didn't think he had his best game in this one. Jake Arthur, he's been out for a long, long time. He's a fringe player. They should have done a lot better than they did, but in the end, that's the reality. They didn't. As I said, though, I just don't think the forward pack was laying enough of a platform. Taukeaho and Bullimore, who started the game as their front rowers, 84 metres for Bullimore, 53 metres from Taukeaho. And then off the bench, we had 106 for Waddell, who was in the second row. Matthew Lodge made his return and ran 12 times for 109 metres, which was all right. And Jazz Tavanga, I thought, was really good, playing the entire game at lock forward and 15 runs, 138 metres and 50 tackles. Thought Jazz Tavanga was absolutely terrific. But yeah, they couldn't get much of a roll on. And it was against the Eels team who's, the forward pack were terrific in this game, but the forward pack of the Eels has not been terrific all season. So, if I looked at these two forward packs on paper, I think they're very similar. The Seagulls just got absolutely rolled, though. So, I'm very worried about, what's to come for their season. This was a game they sort of really needed to win, and it just, they were never in it. So, we'll have to see how they bounce back next week. I'm worried about them, that's for sure, but there's not really much more that can be added to that. Actually, no, they don't have the bye, don't worry. Anyway, let's move into the next game, the Newcastle Knights defeating the Penrith Panthers. Another game I tipped incorrectly, having watched even, let me say that again. Even in the weeks that I haven't been churning out podcasts like last week, I'm still watching every game of footy. I'm still watching every minute of every game. So I watched the Knights last week, and it was abysmal. They were terrible. I wrote it in my notes before, other circumstances stopped me from doing that podcast, but they were terrible, and they have been let's be honest, very poor all year. But like the last couple of weeks, they have been genuinely awful. Like I've seen park footy teams that I know could have beaten the Knights in the last 2 weeks. They have been terrible. So I thought that this Panthers team, even without all their origin players, and it was a very, very understrength Panthers team, would get it done because of how poor the Knights had been and the fact that they were now losing Kalen Ponga. They lost Leo Thompson sort of just before the game. They're still without Jacob Saifiti. Like, they have a number of outs the Knights, and I'm like, with how they've been throwing stuff up, I don't think they're any chance in the world. Egg all over my face. They were really, really good in this game, particularly the first half. You know, they were kept scoreless in the second half, but they also kept the Panthers to only one try. They kept them scoreless throughout the first half and only leaked one in the second half. So the defense, which in fairness, and we've said it all season, it has been good all season. The Knights' defense is very good. But their attack in this game was just so much better than what I'd seen, even in the second half where they didn't score any points besides the field goal. They showed me enough that I believe that they can do this. Now, of course, the standouts in that regard were two players in particular. Fletcher Sharp in his move to fullback, and you guys know how much I love Fletcher Sharp. Huge, huge fan of him. Fullback, in my opinion, is by far his best position. I think he's been one of, if not the Knights' best player all year in 5'8". But it's pretty easy to do that in a team that's playing pretty darn shocking. But his move to fullback was just extraordinary. And as I said, his best position. But did I expect these numbers? Absolutely not. 20 runs, 274 meters, 272 meters, I should say. 4 line breaks, 1 try, 15 tackle breaks. He was unstoppable. You couldn't lay a hand on him, and if you did, he just shrugged through. His try was literally, I think it was his try. Yeah, I'm certain it was his try. It was either that or was one that was taken back. But he just powered through like 4 or 5 people, and he's a small guy. But he's got so much heart that he just kept the legs pumping and kept moving and just broke through everyone and powered his way. He wanted it more. I thought he was unbelievable, undoubtedly made our team of the week at fullback, but just one of the best performances of the season, to be honest. And the other man that with one of the best performances of the season was his second rower, Dylan Lucas, who scored a first half hat trick and bombed a fourth. He almost had 4 tries in the first half alone. Just went for the Superman dive and dropped the ball in the last one. It was a very silly, bomb of a try, but you can't really hold it against him when he scored 3 in the first half. But yeah, 3 tries for Dylan Lucas, 17 runs, 212 meters, 3 line breaks, 10 tackle breaks, and 23 tackles. 6 missed, to be fair, but still, I thought he was excellent. Dylan Lucas also made our team of the week. I mean, how couldn't he? One of the best second row performances of the season, to be honest. He's a name that's been very much tossed about in Origin, and rightly so. I think next series he 1,000,000% will be part of the extended squad if he's not on the bench or starting. He's just got Origin written all over him. He's got rep footy written all over him, Dylan Lucas. He's very, very sound in defence. I know, the 6 missed tackles in this one don't read amazingly, but normally he's fantastic in defence. He's obviously got this X factor. He can score tries, but he just runs a fantastic line, one of the better lines in the game. He has a knack for finding an offload or spinning in that tackle and getting a ball out. He's just got everything you want in a second rower, and he's still so young and so early into his career. He's got a massive future ahead of him, Dylan Lucas. So he was absolutely terrific as well. And beyond that for the Knights, as I said, very good game for the squad. I thought Dane Gagai was really good. 20 runs, 148 meters, and he didn't miss from the boot. 8 tackle breaks as well for Dane Gagai. And beyond that, no, massive standouts. Kyle Pierce-Paul was solid. 15 runs, 167 metres. Tyson Frizzell, 15 runs, 175 metres. The only other man I want to fully mention was, we'll lump them together. The halves pairing of Jack Cogger and Tyson Gamble. Now, again, one-off game. Do I believe that this is their best halves pairing moving forward? Probably not, but I thought they were really good in this one. Cogger ended up being more of the runner in this one, which sort of lines up with the fact that Tyson Gamble was meant to be their halfback at the start of the season before getting injured. Whether or not I agree with that, probably not. But it was good to see Jack Cogger's running game. He ended up having 12 runs for 121 metres, line break assist in that as well. While Tyson Gamble, 7 runs, 70 metres, that's all solid. 3 line break assists and 3 try assists from Gamble. Had some fantastic pills to to Dylan Lucas. You know, he played the hand in those ones. In terms of the kicking department, they both had their fair share. It was 9 kicks to Gamble, 8 kicks to Cogger, with 316 metres to Cogger and 242 to Gamble. So most of the long kicking was Cogger, but they were pretty even in that regard. So it's interesting what they're going to do. Obviously, Fletcher Sharp has been 5'8" all year and he's been one of the best players. Ponga to come back into this side, you can't move him from fullback. Well, if you do and leave Fletcher there, you can only move him to 5'8". So I don't know what they're going to do with their halves, but I wanted to outline, you know, they've copped a lot of crap this year, essentially all Knights halves, not just these two blokes in particular. So when they have these performances, we want to outline that too, but I thought they were great. And in terms of, you know, the Knights performance in general, just a really good win that they can 1,000,000% build off. For the Panthers, however, really not much to touch on. They were decimated with players out through Origin and injury and suspension. Like, with the greatest of respect, like, all of these players essentially have played first graders. They're fringe first graders, but it's a reserve grade side. This is not a side that you would see and go, yeah, I'm going to pick them to beat most sides. I did it because the Knights have been genuinely terrible, and the Panthers, we know their system. We know that their reserve graders normally step up, and I don't think they were abysmal, but they were far from ideal in this one. But yeah, there's not really more you can touch on beyond that. As I said, like, you can't really say, oh, let's bag out this player when he's a reserve grader going up against a solid Knights team with just an extra spring in their step, to be honest. So I'm not really going to touch on any players at all in this one. I thought Brad Schneider was pretty good. I liked Tom Jenkins' work. He had a few good moments. And it was good to see Jesse McLean finally get one. He's sort of been the lost man in all of their outside backs and whatnot this year. Haven't heard his name mentioned once. I don't know if he's been injured or not, but I thought he had a solid game. Jesse McLean, 14 runs, 142 metres. And Patea as well. It was just good to see him continuing his development, churning out 13 runs for 131 metres off the bench in only 30 minutes. So I thought he was good. Lindsay Smith as well, by the way. 53 tackles in 71 minutes at lock, 15 runs, 124 metres. So I want to give massive shout-outs to them. Mitch Kenny as well. He put up a fantastic knock with 50 of his own tackles, playing the full 80 between middle forward and at hooker. So, yeah, I thought he was good beyond that. Not much to talk about. We can speak more on the Panthers in other games. The Roosters and the Sharkies, the second last game of the round. This one, there's probably more to talk about because these teams, while, you know, touched by Origin in different regards, the scoreline reflects a team that wasn't really, doesn't reflect anything. Sorry, it's the opposite of what we expected the teams to sort of put out in this one because of who was in and out through Origin. The Sharks really not affected in that regard. The Roosters affected 1,000,000%. And then the Roosters win 42-16. A huge, huge win over maybe not premiership favourites, but competition heavyweights in the Cronulla Sharks. So, you know, what is there to talk about in the terms of the Sharkies? I don't know. I don't know how they can look really, really good most weeks and then come out in games like this and just look absolutely terrible. And in fairness, the Roosters played one of their best games of the season. It's so crazy how far we've come from their round one performance to literally every week since then. You know, that Panthers game in retrospect where they were $1 million outsiders to win that game. This is a Roosters team that's played finals every single year and they had a terrible round one loss. But like, how were they so far outsiders against the Penrith Panthers? It baffles me when you think about it, that one loss was enough to write off their entire season, because since then they have been, you know, there's been hit and miss games, but for the most part, I think they've been really good considering the men that they've had on deck, and they're still dealing with that. So to win this game, I think is absolutely huge for their season. They're very much a smoky for the top 8 now, and with the back half of the season, they're not going to be receiving a Brandon Smith boost by the back end anymore with him off to the Rabbitohs, but they will get Sam Walker back. They will be able to build into this season more. I'm excited to see what they can do. You know, they're still getting more experience out of these young fellas, and like Nwanga Nitawase, Savala, Sandon Smith, Billy Smith, Xavier Va'a, who made his debut in this one. They're getting so much experience into those blokes. And then when they can make this push for the back end, I'm excited to see what they have in store. Like, I never saw this result coming. I never saw them beating the Sharks by this much. I didn't even expect them to beat them. So it's just a massive, massive win for the Roosters. And yeah, as I said, I'm really excited about what they have in store for the rest of the season. Let's start on, we've talked enough about the Roosters. Let's go into their standout players. As I said, there's a lot of standout players. James Tedesco, the Origin snub. I don't want to say the Origin snub made him play better because I think he's just been playing this way all season. He's put the Origin stuff well out of mind. He just does his business. 16 runs, 195 metres, 1 try assist, 1 try, 5 tackle breaks. Very close to a couple other tries as well, where if they just, like, he was in support and Victor Radley bombed a try assist to him, and there was another one that he was in support that I think they missed the pass to him. I can't remember who it was, but like he could have had 3 tries in this one. He was excellent. Daniel Tupou wound back the clock with 2 tries. And again, both from kicks. I don't know why they're not doing it more often. He is still, maybe Xavier Coates is up there. Like, he's up there for sure, but maybe Xavier Coates has the mantle. But for me, Daniel Tupou is still the best player in the air. And he showed it. 2 identical tries in this one, just leaping above, I think it was Moeni Hiroti, and catching the ball and scoring the try. He's 6'5", 6'6". He's got great leaping ability. He's got great hands. 2 tries, identical tries by doing that. It should be a staple of the Roosters game to just do that more and more often. I don't know why we don't see it as much as we should, but it's really good to see them do it in this game. He was phenomenal with those 2 tries, 13 runs, 143 metres as well. Mark Nwonga-Nitawase moved back to the centres with Rob Toya in Origin, and Dom Young coming onto the wing. Scored a try, had a try assist to Dom Young, had 12 runs for 112 metres. He's just an absolute freak. He actually had 2 line break assists as well and 4 tackle breaks. Just an absolute freak of a player. Now, there's still errors. There are still moments where he forces passes and they go over the sideline. They're a bit flashy, but he's got so much ability, Mark Nwonga-Nitawase, that I'm happy to see him do those ones, because more often than not, he's going to learn when to pull those off, and he will be hitting the correct ones. So I thought he was great. I thought Dominic Young was great on his return, especially, with all the stuff that happened and how it's all played out, and them essentially saying we want to move him on, we don't want him, and then being forced to keep him, and then all that crap. He had every right to kick stones, but he came back into the side and just did his work. 19 runs, 163 metres, and a try as well. So I thought Dom Young was solid. Sandon Smith, great. Hugo Savala, this was probably his breakout game in the NRL, in my opinion. Played the full game, 5 runs, 58 metres. He had the 2 try assists to Daniel Tupou off kicks, and he also scored a try himself. He was great, Savala. Beyond that, Victor Radley was fantastic at lock forward. As I said, he did bomb that try to Tedesco, trying to be a bit sneaky and do a flick pass. I don't think he intended to just try and be flashy. I think he didn't realise that Tedesco had come from his inside to his outside in time for him to change hands and whatnot, and he just threw the behind the back pass, and it was a shocker. But beyond that, you can't really take that against him, because he had 8 runs, 178 metres, 1 line break assist, 1 try assist, 5 tackle breaks, and probably 100 tackles and 34 tackles as well. He was fantastic. Off their bench, Blake Steep, 53 minutes, he punched out. He's a real handful. 17 runs, 172 metres, a line break and a try assist. And Xavier Va'a and Benaya Uweli, I believe we covered him in the preseason. He looked really good in the preseason, the young hooker. So these 2 made their debut. Uweli ended up starting the game and playing half the game, 40 minutes at hooker. He had some really good moments out there, tackled well, just passed well off the deck. He had a error, which in my opinion was the incorrect call, but whatnot. It was just good to see him punch out a solid performance on his debut amongst a big win. And Xavier Va'a, one of their most exciting talents coming through the grades, he made his debut, only played 11 minutes, only had 2 runs and 25 metres in that time. but he also scored a try on debut, so it was fantastic to see that. But those are the standouts for the Roosters. We've talked enough about them. For the Sharkies, yeah, I don't know. I really don't. This is a team that has the ingredients. They have, in my opinion, the roster and everything's there for them to be a premiership contender. And then they have games like this and you're like, what's missing? I genuinely don't know. I look at their team, from fullback to the last bench, they're all solid, and I don't think anyone had shockers. Like Jesse Ramian wasn't at his best, but Kale Idero was fantastic again with 22 runs, 189 metres, another try, 2 line breaks, a try assist, 6 tackle breaks. Like, he was fantastic. Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking through, and I can't recall anything in the game necessarily. Like Britt Nikita, I thought he was very poor in defence and just discipline. He dropped some just stupid balls, some easy balls. He also missed 7 tackles, which was pretty poor. Billy Burns, I thought, was really good. I loved him in contact. He was running a good line. He was solid in defence. Cam McInnes scored a try. He did his usual thing. Adam Fanua-Blake, 16 runs, 180 metres. Like, I don't really know where it's going wrong for the Sharkies. And I know it just always comes down to their halves, and it's like, yeah, let's start blaming them. I don't know. Nicho Hynes didn't have a bad performance. I know he'll cop the blame as he always does. He had a try assist, a line break assist, 18 runs for 108 metres, and he kicked 2 from 3 conversions. It was a solid game. Braden Trindle, it's so hit or miss. It's so frustrating because on his day, he's an unbelievable footballer. And then on his not day, he's just not great. And I don't think this was the worst performance in the world from him, but it definitely wasn't his best. It's just something about this halves dynamic which clearly isn't working. And I don't really know what they have to do. This is not really a game that I'm going to sit here and say you forget about it, because there's something in here that, because these games, they're popping up far too frequently. So there's something in this game that they need to find what's wrong. And this is the sort of game that they need to be able to identify that and fix it for the rest of the season. Otherwise, they're just going to be destined to do this every year. Like, I don't know. So, yeah, it's probably not much more I can talk about with the Sharkies, but yeah, it's a worrying game from them. I still think they have, they're placed high enough on the ladder and they have enough time that they can really work on this and figure it out and still compete for a premiership. But yeah, they're far from my favourites to even make the prelims at this stage, to be honest. But as I said, long season, they've still got a bit of time to figure that out, and they've won enough games that they can take their time to sort of figure that out. But yeah, very, very disappointing from the Sharkies. But as I said, fantastic game from the Roosters on the flip side. Let's go into the final game of the round. The Canberra Raiders defeating the New Zealand Warriors 16-10. This was, I believe, the Warriors' first loss in Auckland all year, so our first home game loss all season. And it was coming. I tipped against them. Obviously, I've talked about how I tip against my team and the psychology behind that. But the Warriors have been playing really good footy, but they're far from their best. Their attack is not amazing. Their defense, great, and it was great again in this game, only conceding 2 tries to a top 4 team in the Raiders with the strike weapons that they had. I'm more than fine with that. And am I disappointed in the loss? Not really. Like, yeah, I guess it's always disappointing to have a loss. But the Raiders are a fantastic footy side, as they've demonstrated all year. They're a bogey side for us, this year. They've now beaten us 2 out of 2 games. They've got the mechanisms to just do it. They had a better forward pack in this one. We were without James Fisher-Harris. We were without Mitch Barnett. The Raiders, they've got a fantastic squad. So I'm not too down on the loss, to be honest. I think the Raiders really gave us a chance to win the game, and our discipline cost us in the end. Like, the Raiders were doing very stupid penalties. There was a Joseph Tarpany shoulder charge, which was unbelievably stupid near the end of the game, with Warriors fighting for points and giving us field position. It was so bad. I've seen people say that Joseph Tarpany was a leader and he's in team of the weeks of other people. I thought he had a really poor game, Joseph Tarpany. He gave away some really soft and silly penalties, and he almost cost the Raiders the game with that shoulder charge. Tom Starling almost cost them the game with the head-high late tackle on Chanel Harris-Tavita. But the big thing to like about the Raiders is that they were able to hold out. Yeah, in fairness, Warriors' discipline, it was far from ideal. They probably should have won it. Well, maybe not that they should have won it because they were the better team, but because the Raiders had given them the opportunity and they really just didn't execute that. But I thought the Raiders, they were really good. The conditions, again, not fantastic in this one with the rain. But to go over to New Zealand with all the travelling that the Raiders have had to do this year, and to go over into that home crowd with a couple of Origin players missing, I thought they were fantastic. They were great. And only a total of 3 tries scored all game. I'm fine with that. It's a low-scoring game. As I said, I think the Warriors need to fix up their attack a lot. But what these teams have both been able to demonstrate this season is their defense. And what I like is, the Raiders have been known for getting you down into their level and getting you in the dogfight. For me, the Warriors have been the team doing that the most this year, because we've been winning games where we're not playing amazing footy, but they drag you down into their style of play. And when, they dragged the Raiders into their style of play in this one, the Raiders were able to do that style of play better, because that's what the Raiders have known to be able to do. So I'm not taking a massive amount from it. It's a clash between 2 top 4 teams, second and third, and now the win sees the Raiders leapfrog to second and Warriors to third. Like, both these sides have demonstrated enough so far that they're probably still going to be there at the pointy end of the season. It's just a really good win from the Raiders to be able to demonstrate that against a top team in the Warriors this year, and to do it twice in this season is even better. But yeah, as a Warriors fan, I'm not taking too much away from it. As I said, the Raiders are just one of the better teams in the comp, and I think they're so far ahead of schedule as well. They've got so many young players and whatnot that I thought they weren't going to be anywhere near where they are, and to be doing what they're doing now, they're so close to a premiership already, and they've still got so many young fellas to breed up and give them experience. I think they're so far ahead of schedule. I'm really excited to see what the Raiders' future holds. In terms of standout players, let's start with the losing team in the Warriors. I thought Charles Nickel-Klugstad was really good. He did get sin-binned at the end, but he just looked he looked trimmer. He looked as trim as I'd probably seen him since maybe even his early Warriors days, maybe his days at the Raiders, but genuinely just as trim as I've ever seen. Maybe it was the new jerseys, which looked fantastic as well, but he seemed to step quicker, heaps more agile. There was a period where he was sort of crabbing across field and breaking ankles and looking like Roger Tuivasa-Sheck out there. And then he had that line break as well and sprinted upfield. He just looked very trim, a step quicker, heaps more agile. It makes me wonder if he's been carrying an injury this year, or if this is just he knew this is where he needs to be. But I thought he was good before his sin bin. 16 runs, 204 metres, 1 line break, 5 tackle breaks. He was solid. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, he was great again back on the wing, doing his usual 18 runs, 180 metres, and scored a good try using his body weight and his balance to beat the young fella in Savelio Tamale to score a try. Really good there. 8 tackle breaks again from Roger as well. I thought the halves were solid. Obviously they could have probably managed the game a bit better at the depth, but throughout most of its entirety, I thought they were really, really good. As I said, it was more so just silly errors early in the set that really ruined it. But yeah, I've been really liking the halves this year. Jackson Ford ended up coming off the bench but playing 55 minutes. 18 runs, 209 metres from Jackson Ford, 43 tackles, and a lot of those tackles were some important tackles, saving tries, cleaning up breaks. He was fantastic, Jackson Ford. And if I scroll to the end here, the one thing I want to see, there it is, 0 errors from Jackson Ford. If he can cut out those errors, he's a top forward of our game. So thought he was excellent. Like Halasima, solid again. Niokore, I liked his move into the front row again. Of course, Ali Leitao made his return, which meant Kurt Capewell got to move back to the second row. Niokore into front row and Ford off the bench. It's a good little rotation that I like in the absence of Barnett and Fisher Harris. I thought he was really good. And again, Kurt Capewell has been so underrated this year. He's a player who does not turn up on the stat sheet. If you look at his stats, 10 runs, 98 metres, 34 tackles, 7 missed. Absolutely not. His effort areas are incredible. Those missed tackles are like, I don't know. I'm not seeing those missed tackles. I'm seeing him make the most important and vital tackles of the game every week, whether he's at centre at second row. He's been so good for us this year. So I wanted to give him a shout out, even though he doesn't show up in the stat sheet. Aaron Clark was great again, 16 runs, 147 metres from him and 37 tackles, 0 missed. And yeah, that's probably about it for the Warriors. It was just not too much that really shows up on the stat sheet, just those players sort of there. For the Raiders, it's sort of a similar note. As I said, close game between two top teams. There's not a lot of, there's no 3 trial performances from Dylan Lucas, obviously. But Savelio Tamale, I thought was fantastic. He was so hard to handle, especially considering he was coming up against Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. But 17 runs from Tamale, 213 metres, 1 line break, and 10 tackle breaks. He was so hard to handle, gave us problems all day, Savelio Tamale. He's so young. Again, that's what I'm talking about with the development of the Raiders and how far ahead of schedule they are, because he's so young. He's coming into his first full season. Savage has still got so much left in him of growth. Timoko, Chris, Weeks, Ethan Strange has been amazing this season and hasn't got any of the recognition he deserves. He runs the footy so hard. He's so hard to handle because of his build. And in defense, he hits you as hard as anyone. I think Ethan Strange has been tremendous this year. And these players are all so young. There's so much, to build on here. You've still got Trey Mooney's and Atamadiotas. No, he might be in the side. He is. But, there's some young fellas missing this side. They've got so much left in them. I'm really, really excited about this Raiders team. Sorry, where were we? Other standout players. Horsburgh, he was good before his sin bin, which was just, it wasn't necessarily him being silly like normally you expect that from Corey. You hear Corey sin bin, you go, oh, whose head did he take off? But it was just the Raiders had given away too many penalties in a row, and he was the next player to be to be copped for it, and that meant he was the one who goes to the bin. But beyond that, he ripped and teared. Joseph Tarpany, as I said, I didn't think he was all that in this game, and don't get me wrong, Tarpany's one of the best front rowers in the game. But 11 runs, 119 metres, 44 tackles in fairness with only 2 missed. But yeah, I thought he gave away some crucial and stupid penalties in this game and just bit into the referee and bit into the crowd and whatnot a bit too much. I think if they were to lose this game, it's a completely different narrative on Joseph Tarpany's performance. And I'm not taking a hit at Tarpany. As I said, one of the best front rowers in the game. He's a leader of this club. I'd love to have him. I'd take him at the Warriors in a heartbeat. But yeah, just wanted to sort of do a bit of a flip side to the narrative that's been spoken about him from this game. Regardless, he wasn't poor. I just thought his discipline could use a tidy up. Sasangi good. Morgan Smithies was really good. 61 minutes from him. 14 runs, 124 metres and 42 tackles. And the other one was the debut of Noah Martin off the bench, who had some really good carries. He's someone that we outlined in the preseason, talking about all of the Martin brothers. They're really great players. Those are some players that I just mentioned that are missing from this side on a week-to-week basis that have a lot of growing in their game. So I thought he was good in his time on the field. And Papali'i as well, Josh Papali'i, the veteran, only 18 minutes, but 11 runs for 110 metres in that time and 10 tackles, 0 missed. But yeah, really good win from the Raiders to get a win over one of the top teams in the competition is really great for them. They're building into a very exciting season. Of the two teams, if they were to be competition heavyweights, if they're to verse who, in my opinion, are still the best team in the comp, the Storm, in the grand final. Who would I be more confident in? I'm taking the Raiders every day of the week, and I'm a Warriors fan. I think the Raiders are a fantastic footy side, and it was a great performance from them in this game. That one wraps us up for round 12. We have gone well over time, but if you've tuned in, thank you guys for listening. We'll have our posts up about this round tomorrow, and look forward to leading into State of Origin, Go the Mighty Blues, and then of course into round 13 after that. So thank you guys for tuning into this one, and I'll see you guys next time.